It is 6 o'clock. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 10th, 2026 Board of Education regular meeting for Cuyahoga Heights Schools. Will the treasurer please call the roll?
Mrs. Apathy.
Here.
Ms. Pajeska.
Here.
Mr. Rossi. Here. Mrs. Deca.
Here.
Mr. Suchaki.
Here, 5 present, none absent. On behalf of the board, I would like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. The board values and encourages public comment on education issues. Anyone having an interest in the actions of the board may participate during the public comments portion of the meeting, and if so, please identify yourself. A copy of the board meeting agenda is available on the website. Do ask that we silence our phones during the meeting, and at this point, rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Entertain a motion for approval of tonight's agenda, please.
So moved.
Okay. And a second?
Second.
And second. Oh, we're coming down this straight this time. Okay, that sounds good. Any discussion? Hearing none, treasurer, please call the roll.
Mr. Rossi.
Aye.
Mrs. Apathy.
Aye.
Ms. Pajeska.
Aye.
Mrs. Deca.
Aye.
Mr. Suchaki.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Comments from the public, there's nobody here. So moving on to section 4, presentations, and we're starting off with the August 2026 financial forecast. Mr. Muccio.
Thank you. So tonight is our presentation of the forecast, and we're not going to vote on it tonight. We're going to vote on it 2 weeks from now at our next board meeting that we have. Everybody in front of them has 3 different handouts. We have a black and white forecast, a colored forecast, and the notes to the August forecast. Now, the difference between the black and white and the color copy is the color copy is the August 2026, so the most recent, the one that we're looking at tonight's forecast, and the black and white is from February. So the difference is February was projecting or forecasting fiscal 26. Now we can actually see that fiscal 26 is an actual on the color copy that we have. And the numbers that populated the column for fiscal 26 come from, and I have it up on the screen, our general fund lead sheet that we look at and approve at our various board meetings whenever we close the month. So the one on the screen in front of us that we have here, if we were to look, and I know it's small, but each row, so this number right here becomes the actual number for line 1.010 general property tax. So that's the $12,568,709. So that's our total that we had for the entire fiscal year 26. And then below it, we have our $3,879,000 for line 1.020 and so forth. So 976,000, 192,000, 1.3 million, 2.9 million, 30,500 and 23,627, which gives us a total of 21,986,400 some dollars. And again, this is all here on our T2D that we approved at our last board meeting. So from our monthly financial statements. And again, if we wanted to really drill down, we could go here and look at any one of these months and go back and see, well, what populated that line that we have there right over here. So any one of those we can go back and kind of further get more detail on. Same for expenditures. So if we keep going down, we have our line 3.010, that's personnel services, so salaries that we have for the staff members, $10,475,700 some dollars. Below that is 4.3 million, 2.8, 540,000, 29,000, 380,000, 200,000, 85,000. Then we get to our total of 18,912,000, which is on line 5.050, total of all of our expenditures. And then we come to our beginning number, which was all the way up here in blue, which we have every board meeting, our 14,171,000, which is line 7.010. It's where we started the year, and where we ended the year is right below that. And that's our $17,244,800 some dollars that we have on line 7.020. So that was our story of fiscal '26, and we've been looking at that all along the way. And now we come to the projection that we have in place. And again, we look and see our $3 million surplus on line 6.010. Prior year, we have a negative 3.1 million, but again, there's an asterisk because we transferred out $4 million at that point in time for our capital project plan. So we would have had a natural surplus that year as well. As we just kind of compare the forecast to one another on the color copy for fiscal year 30, we're still strong. We're at over $3 million projected. And again, this forecast is really estimated safely. So I look at everything and say, well, everything that can go wrong, I'm expecting it to go wrong, just as LeBron James didn't come to Cleveland. So I'm thinking, this is the worst case scenario kind of for us that we have. And again, I just want to hold up the prop. This was the coolest thing I think I've seen in a long time, but this is the almanac from Back to the Future. So it just kind of represents that we don't know what's in the future that we have in front of us. So can't look in here, Matt, and say what's going to happen tomorrow or 2 years from now or whatever. So this is our best guess for what we have in front of us for an estimate. We take the most available data that we have and put it in front of us. But again, this is a very safe forecast. I could estimate aggressively, but we're kind of threading a needle. And by that I mean if we have a forecast that's too well, there's a new law in place that the Budget Commission can look at it and say, well, Cuyahoga Heights, you guys are trending very well financially, and you can give some money back to the community. But the problem with that is, what if some problems happen and we needed those funds? And if we forecast too safely and we show a deficit in the first 3 years of the forecast, that's when the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce comes to a district and they send a letter and they say, you have to eliminate whatever that deficit is in those 3 years. And those are on lines 10 and 12 and 15 that they look at. So we don't have those. And I think, again, this is a safe forecast from an estimate standpoint. We can see if we compare fiscal '27 on both the black and white and the color copy. On the black and white, we were at 10.8, and on the color copy for fiscal '27, we're at 16.2. So again, we're in a stronger position. Not only that, in our general fund are we showing a stronger position, but we transferred out, remember, $4 million to tackle all those capital improvements. So even with transferring $4 million to tackle those roofing improvements that we have, we're still in a very strong place for the short term. So again, we can't predict what's going to happen in the future, but from the short term snapshot that we have, we're in a very strong financial position. I don't know, Matt, is there anything you want to add to that? So one thing that we have to do with our forecast is compile notes. And these go to the Auditor of State's office and the Ohio Department of Education. And even in our audits that we have from the Auditor of State's office, they review it and say, well, is there a rationale for the amount that you have here in this column? We can go back and say, yeah, this is the rationale right here in the notes. Now, these forecasts are on the Ohio Department of Education's website. So if we look here, and all you have to do is just put in 5-year forecast, what it was called, or just forecast, and it'll pop up, and you can click on it, and it leads to this link right here. You can come down and click on current and historical forecasts, and it leads to not the nicest printout, it's their software. So you can put CUY for Cuyahoga, abbreviated, and you can find us, Cuyahoga Heights, right here. And we can search all the different forecasts right down here. And we can click on fiscal '26, and the required update would have been from February, so the black and white copy that we have. And we can see that bottom right number is $2,130,859. So this is that forecast that we see up here. And again, everything's on this website for view. If you want to see any of the notes, you can come here. And they have all the notes as far back as 2018, actually 17 right here that you can click on. But if we come back here to look at February's notes, all the school districts in the state. So if I click on us, Cuyahoga Heights, here, click on that link, and it's going to bring up our notes right here. And if we want to see other notes for what other school districts do, let's take a look at Garfield Heights. So Garfield Heights, if I click on their notes, this is what they compile. So all the notes for all the school districts are out there. Some use software, like Forecast 5 Analytics, to help them produce notes. So Garfield Heights uses that software. Some people just do it by hand, whichever way you want to go. Now, one thing that ODE looks at when we say, they look at those deficits in the first 3 years, let's take a look at, let's keep going with Garfield, or let's choose Barberton, for example. So if I click on Barberton, and we go to fiscal 26, and we go for the last forecast, we have a bunch of red down here on lines 15, 12, and 10. So 10 and 12, but 12 is the same as essentially 15. It just has the new property tax levies. But these are the lines that the Ohio Department of Education looks at, and they look at the first 3 years. So at this point in time back in February or March, they'd be looking at 26, 27, 28, and they'd go and they'd say, well, you guys have a negative 5.1 million and negative 11.9. You have to eliminate those deficits that you have in place. So that is what they're looking at. So preemptively, to make sure that a school doesn't go into fiscal emergency. They try to catch it, as early as that, third year of the forecast. They don't look at the fourth year. But for us, we're not in any position to worry about any of that. Again, we're in a strong financial position, but there are a lot of school districts, if we were to go and, look at any of them, can't say that. I mean, we're in fiscal 27 now. Barberton's projecting a negative almost $2 million amount in fiscal 27. So that means they just won't have zero cash, but they'll owe money. They'll have negative cash. They'll overdraw their bank account. It's kind of a scary prospect. This goes to the schools that plan levies and whatnot. Again, if we put in Cuyahoga, I'll just bring up another example or two before I jump into ours, but if we look at Rocky River, because they were essentially on the same levy cycle as us, if you think of it that way, and I go to their most recent forecast, which would be fiscal 26 in February, they're going to have a deficit in their fourth year at that point in time, but fiscal 29. So they're going to have a negative 3.4 million. So they're going to have to start thinking levy in fiscal 27, kind of maybe 2 years before you really have that negative, maybe sooner. So that's why we want to, stretch our levy out as far as we possibly can before we would have to go back. And, I don't foresee us, again, I'll hold up the almanac, I don't know, but I'm hopeful that, that talk doesn't have to occur until fiscal 30, give or take. It's hard to tell. But, we talk all the time, and Matt, I don't know if you want to give a quick summary of just, end of this year, just, what that could look like, because it could end a lot of that
Well,
planning.
where's your book?
Yep.
Yeah. And if you want to predict how things are going to be based on how the election goes in November, I don't know how it goes either way. There's just a lot of, schools are in the crosshairs of a lot of political conversations, and property tax obviously is something that people are very passionate about. And, I think trying to predict which way things are going to go is very difficult, but I am confident in this, that we have a great team in place. We have great leadership across the entire school district. I think we value what the community wants. We work very hard to produce a forecast like the one Matt's producing. Not that other school districts aren't, but as I was just saying to him earlier, I challenge anybody to find somebody who has a financial forecast like ours, who doesn't have a new levy coming up in the next 3 years or didn't have one over the past 2 years. So, but I think that's the most important thing, is when you have all this volatility, to have confidence that you have stability in your school district, I think is something to be proud of, but not to take for granted either.
When I say I'm forecasting safely as opposed to aggressively, let's take an example, one more example, and then we'll jump into ours. Let's look at Garfield Heights. And let's go back to fiscal '25. We're going to go back to February '25. And we see, negatives that we have down here on line 27, 28. So when we're in fiscal, and this is fiscal '25, keep that in mind. I mean, they have, deficits that they're looking at as far out as that point in time that they would have to plan for. So there's not much you can do. And let me, go to a more current one that they have, fiscal '27. We can see the most updated one. This is one that they just turned in. Again, they're showing a positive here. So even if you forecast carefully, you just have to be cognizant about the fact that things change. So numbers change, and I always want to aim for the more safe approach, and that we have, excess built in that we can withstand any type of negatives that would happen, or emergencies or shortfalls that we weren't expecting, repairs and whatnot, because it's hard for school districts to kind of switch it up in essence and go back and say, oh no, now we need a levy. But you may have to take time to put that on, and the levy may not pass the first go around. Ours didn't. And that we had the whole plan in place, and Matt, you would talk about it a lot, how we missed a whole year's worth of collections. So just kind of erring on the side of caution and just being safe with the forecast. That's just my philosophy as I go through it. Again, I could kind of forecast more aggressively, or where the numbers are kind of at that point in time, but I look at this as, this is our plan for the district, short-term, long-term, 4 years, either way you look at that. And it leads us to how we want to operate the school district, levies, reductions that we have, any of those things. And I think we want to keep away from reductions that affect the outcomes of the students that we have here. So again, that's just kind of the philosophy I've always taken with the forecast. Because I know some new people up here, this may be really the first time jumping into. I know we have the February, but that was kind of maybe rushed. All right, let's jump in ours. Forecast. Again, we have our forecast here, and we have our notes. And our notes are going to give us all of the information for these rows that we have. And we roll up essentially kind of everything together and populate these lines that we would see. So as we go through, the state shifted from a 5-year forecast to what people can think of as a 4-year forecast. So the current year plus 3 forecasted years, which is essentially 4 years. So we're in fiscal '27 now. And then we have 3 years after that, 28, 29, and 30. The forecast really helps out in a couple ways. Number one, to engage the Board of Education and the community in a long-range planning and discussion of financial issues facing the school district. It also serves as a basis for determining school district's ability to sign the certificate required by ORC 5705.412, and we just call it the 412 certificate. In short, but what it says is, if we're going to go for a collective bargaining agreement with the unions, for example, and they want us to sign a 3-year agreement, well, we're going to go back and look at the forecast and say, can we certify 3 years, 3 years into the future, for one of those collective bargaining agreements if raises come into play? So this is what everybody looks at to be able to certify those contracts. Because you can't just certify and say, yep, you have it, we think we do. It takes the data that we have here and says yes or no. Sometimes schools can only certify 1 or 2 years, like Garfield Heights, and maybe not even, like Barberton, for example. So this is what the forecast, it's one of the tools used for in that process. And then it's also to provide a method for the Department of Education and Workforce and the other state to identify school districts with potential financial problems. So both of those entities are constantly scrutinizing forecasts that are submitted twice a year to them. They look at just kind of weaknesses or, aggressive estimates or way things didn't pan out. And then they're really notifying the leadership at any of those entities and saying, maybe you guys have to reduce what that flag deficit is or whatnot. So there's a lot there for this tool that's in place. We have our table and contents for the next page. I'll just kind of go fast. Now I'm going your speed, so you guys tell me if I'm going too slow or too fast. So, the nature of the forecast, and again, this talks more about the 412 certificate, main
Faster.
purposes.
You can speed it up.
Okay, okay. That we have. All right, let's jump to revenue, our first line that we have. And if anybody loses it, it's right here embedded on page 9 of the forecast. So, I won't jump too much into this, but we know that there was a huge issue with Cuyahoga County and the Budget Commission for what we have. So, I have those flagged, and I have notes here, I have our collection information here, here's 11, I'll keep going faster. One thing to point out, this isn't, if you guys are ever curious, market versus assessed value, it's a good read, that little paragraph. Inside versus outside millage, that's pretty good too. The 20 mil floor, the state signed 2 bills, and this is on page 13, that modified how that's going to be calculated going into the future. So the schools it's going to affect, it's not going to affect us, but the schools with the yellow flags that we have here are the ones it's going to affect. And in turn, we may see an indirect aspect of this because we get tuition students from where? Surrounding school districts. We get them from Parma, Cleveland, Bedford, Garfield Heights. Those are the main big ones that we have. Well, what do we see here? We see Parma and Garfield Heights are on the 20 mil floor. So with the modification to the calculation, and we know that they're having financial difficulties, they may be reducing programs, which in turn leads parents to say, I want my students to have more opportunities. Oh, there's a tuition program at Cuyahoga Heights. Oh, I'm going to send my student there. So that could be something that we see in the future as we go. Continuing on, this is the timeline, if anybody's curious, for the Cuyahoga County property tax issue. Come down here to page 15. And I want to point out that this is the email that Robin had sent to me April 17th. And this was the first time in which they had actually given us a figure, a number, for the clerical error. And it was 2.2 million. Omitted taxes would be 721,000, and modifying the effective rates would be 1,486,000 to bring us to our 2,207,000 that we're going to collect back. So just wanted to point that out in this box here. Continuing on, this is a good little chart here on page 16 of our cash carryover. And again, this was a big issue for us because we have historically been over 90%. And the state wanted to dip us to 25% starting, but ultimately 40% was where they were looking at it. And again, that would just bring all forecasts down to operating in a trouble spot. Continuing on, page 17 just talks about those new laws. These ones we're going to see at the bottom, these are going to be impactful for us. 186 talks about the restructuring of the rollback credits. House Bill 309 is the Budget Commission's ability to reduce levies. That's very, it's arbitrary. Because the Board of Education, you guys say, yes, we're going to go out for a 8 mil levy, right? We feel that there's a need for that. Administration, has recommended that to us. We're going to take it out to the voters. Voters vote for it. The Budget Commission can just supersede all that and say, well, we don't think we need 1 mil of that levy for a portion of time. The school could not collect on that. Continuing on, I just wanted to point out, look at the big differential here on page 18 on revenue. So for the first half of 25 and the first half of 26, 7.9 to 10.3. So we started collecting what was owed to us. It's that big differential right there. This is just kind of what I use for data and logic in here, but let's go to our roll-up on page 21. And again, this is what populates the first line of the forecast that we have. And we can see our, and I quadruple check this, so gonna tell you how many times I go back just to make sure all these numbers match up. So that first line, 1.010, general property tax revenue, you see for 24, 9.8 million, 10.3, 12.5, then we hop over to 27, 11.6, 11 million, 11 million, 11 million that we have here. And so again, this is what goes on the line in the forecast, and this is what makes it up. If we're ever curious on, where we're getting these, go back to the notes in the forecast. But I have also a nice little write-up here of a methodology saying that, I'm thinking we're gonna get a 95% collection rate for our property taxes here. This is our payback on lines 6 and 7 from Cuyahoga County that we're gonna see. So it's all gonna come out in the wash. We're gonna get the 2.2 million, even though on the payback, they kinda screwed it up. So, but that's where I'm thinking. So there's a little bit of a bubble here. If we look back at our collection percentage, we've been mid to high 90s. I'm being safe here and saying 95%. So hopefully that we're gonna come out at 97% or higher.
Quick question on the omitted taxes. It went up a little bit in '26, like from 10 million to 12, and then it goes down, you're forecasting 11. Is that because they overcorrected, then you're expecting it to go back down?
Yeah, if we look here, so on line 6 and 7, so 846,000 coming, so all of this makes up our 2.2 million, right down here, all these numbers right
Okay.
here. 721,000, and then these two make up almost 1.5 million. So 3 of these add up to that 2,207,000 some odd dollars. So we're gonna get that over the course of this period of time, however it gets to us. So I'm trying to back into that as much as I can. So that's why we see it at 12.5 and then it goes down, because I'm thinking that this is our baseline for what we have for our property taxes here. It's 10.8. Might be a little more if we're gonna get more than 95%, but this is the payback for what we have for past
Okay.
periods of time.
Thank you.
Yep. And then continuing on, we come to our public utility personal property. So this is starting line 1.020. And this is made up of our utility properties that we have. So American Transmission Systems, Cleveland Electric Illuminating, East Ohio Gas, and so forth, the railroads. It talks about methods of valuation. If you're ever really bored, read that. So, I did. It's actually kind of interesting. I'll dive into it. A lot of this is the same information, but it just affects our public utility personal property, which is at our full rate for what we have. And I'll go to our roll-up line. I will make a note that last year was the first year in my entire time here that the numbers didn't match out, and it had a portion to do with the property tax issue from the clerical issue at Cuyahoga County, as well as there was a utility that didn't pay 100% of their property taxes. That was almost unheard of. And there was also a valuation adjustment that I had to kind of pull teeth with from Cuyahoga County to get that information. So it's the first time that had occurred all together in that year, so trying to separate everything. But if we go to our roll-up on page 27, you can see our actuals, and our valuation had been going up for public utility personal property. So back on tax year 14, it was 39 million valuation, all the way up to tax year 25 of 96 million valuation. So I have the approximate revenue to the right of that. So playing it safe, because I have it here, generally the collection is 100%, only because last year proved to me that it wasn't. So that's why we should get more, but there was a lot going on last year. And I'm just playing it safe because if we're gonna make plans going ahead, this is kind of the worst case scenario when I say that, to help us guide decisions. Continuing on. This is state aid. So now we're on line 1.035, unrestricted state aid. The difference between restricted and unrestricted is unrestricted, you could spend it on almost anything. Restricted, they give it to you for certain reasons, whether it's for gifted or for, disadvantaged pupils, student wellness, think of it that way. So for unrestricted, This is just kind of a history if anybody's interested, continuing on. Our student population is dipping at the bottom of page 29. We were, mid 700s, and now we're maybe 700, give or take. So that's just something that we have to be, mindful of.
Yeah, last week our admin team met over 2 different days. We were talking about the BEST committee and its function and the work that it's done over the years, and I just asked for feedback as to what a potential topic or a pillar of focus could be for the 26-27 school year. And I think after a little discussion, we almost unanimously agreed that the enrollment conversation has to come up, because while those numbers, they're, I think Matt is actually fully counting students there. When the state does the counting, career tech students only count as half, kindergarten students only count as half. So you may see state numbers even smaller than those. The truth of the matter is, we have 35% of our population is paying tuition to come to school here. We just don't have a lot of resident students anymore. And so, do we need to increase? We have seats on the plane, as Tom used to reference. All right, but your plane's running 2/3 filled up. Okay, and where are those seats? The seats aren't necessarily on the elementary plane. All right, the elementary plane is pretty full, but the middle school plane is sitting there with seats, and the high school has a lot of seats. And what does that all mean? I think that's great conversation to have with a bigger group of people and to get feedback from more than just my admin team. But it's definitely something I think we need to look at. So, because we were over 800 when I came back in 2020, maybe 825, 850, somewhere in that range. I'd have to look at my exact numbers. We're down 100 students in 6 years. And you had talked about exit surveys and things like that. I think that all rolls into the BEST committee conversation. So that's going to be my recommendation when I look at his numbers. So.
We're limited on the things that we can do, other than, because you can't start in elementary school and try to build that up because we're already too close to the numbers, so you really have to hit middle and high school. That's
No,
gonna be tough.
there's conversations to have about whether the tuition prices can be tweaked, or if there are incentives, like if you refer a family, does that give you a discount? Or, do we have to do a more active recruiting and worry about getting slapped on the wrist later for going out and recruiting? And if you do recruit, how do you do that without being accused of recruiting for athletics? Because that will get you, athletics will get you all kinds of trouble if you're recruiting as a public school district. So, there's just things that we have to talk about: marketing, branding, why are people leaving, even predicting what 10 years from now looks like. You could have a generational shift and homes open up and you get the younger families moving in again. We just don't. It's a big conversation to have, and I think it could be fun to dive a little bit deeper into that, because we're definitely at a point where we need to try to get more kids here. Especially since we're stable, all you unstable school districts out there, families of school districts that are unstable, we're stable. We're good.
Not necessarily losing our own students due to vouchers, but we're not giving some of the students who are taking in the vouchers.
Yeah. That's right.
Continuing on, page 30 just has definitions of each line of state aid. So there's a lot of components of state aid, so it's not just one item. On page 31, just want to point out something new for fiscal 27. Look at targeted assistance that we have here. So we got 0 in 25, we got 0 in 26, but look at 27. What's it say? 123,000. Wow, why did that happen? So I have a box here with an arrow that says see Appendix A. So if I go all the way to the end, so if you were to look at the last page, 92, this is our Appendix A. And it has why we're getting 123,000. The only reason Cuyahoga Heights received 123,669 some dollars in '27 instead of 0 in '26 is because the district crossed the capacity index threshold of 1.0. The wealth amount remains 0 in both years. So if we look, 27's here, 28's in this column. The change is the statewide median weighted wealth. So it's all a calculation for targeted assistance. And that increased 8.2%, while our district weighted wealth remained flat. That took us from 0.96 to crossing the 1.0 threshold for their index, 1.04, and that allowed us to get the maximum amount, if we look at this calculation down here, of 123,634. When we take that, subtract from that, gives us that, multiply by the 0.008, which is the maximum you can get if you have more than 600 ADM. So it's a unique, tricky calculation, but I wanted to include everything in this Appendix A because there's a lot here, but it shows why we receive, or are going to receive the 123,000.
I don't think I've heard the term wealth, wealth amount. I don't remember hearing that before. Could you take a moment and explain what that is?
Yeah, so for targeted assistance, it utilizes two components, a capacity index and this wealth index that they have here. So the wealth amount didn't change, it stayed 0 because Cuyahoga Heights is still far wealthier than the statewide median on a per pupil basis. So it talks about district wealth per pupil back in fiscal 26 and fiscal 27. That we can see here, the state median per pupil, a wealth index, and how ours still remains 0. So the district's wealth per pupil remains roughly double the statewide median, so it does not qualify for the wealth amount. We do for this capacity index, and again, it really comes from this right here, this component. So the statewide median weighted wealth, say that 5 times fast. So it increased by 8% from 362 million to 391 million. And by that increasing and our staying flat, it widened the gap. So we were now able to pass this capacity index threshold, which arbitrarily from the Fair School funding, this is all the Fair School funding.
Okay.
When we crossed this 1.0 denominator or figure, and it allowed us to get 123,000 by using this calculation down here. So it's a interesting way, and I just kind of have some takeaways down here I listed. So this isn't because Cuyahoga Heights became less wealthy in any significant sense. Instead, the statewide median weighted wealth increased by nearly 30 million, 8%. Cuyahoga Heights weighted wealth stayed essentially flat. That caused the district to move from slightly above the statewide median to slightly below it, triggering eligibility for the capacity amount. And since the district has more than 600 ADM, it receives the full 0.8 differential, resulting in 123,000 for targeted assistance payment in fiscal 27. So again, it's the whole calculation, the components of it, in the Fair School Funding Plan for targeted assistance. It's really interesting, but it's like diving into the details. So I wanted to include this here at the head.
It really is. I mean, I'm looking at the Fair School Funding Plan for quite a few years now, but somehow that never came to the forefront for me before.
Yeah, when I was calculating all this around, I was going in circles. You
I
can
can
imagine.
see why.
But it's, but once I, got it squared away, it was interesting to see. But yeah, if
Yeah,
anybody's
okay.
interested,
Well, thank you for explaining.
all right. So if we go back to, so then we'll just look at our roll, or what's take me to the bottom. This one. So state aid. All right, so we'll go to our roll-up. So we're looking at the difference between the 3 years that we have in place, 800 some thousand for 25, 900 some thousand for 26, and 1.1 million for 27. That's why we see the 1.1 million here, 50,000 for casino tax. And again, it's just factoring out that targeted assistance of 120 some thousand because we don't know if that calculation is going to hit each of those future years. And I'm just kind of conservative on where we're gonna round out with our state support. But there is an increase here that we could realize as we go through. Continuing on, this is restricted. So we get money for certain restricted reasons: disadvantaged people, career tech, gifted, English learning funding, and base cost student wellness and success. And George, isn't that fun when we sit every year and go through what qualifies as student wellness and what qualifies as DPI? Matt, that's one of our,
One of our end of the year meetings.
yep, one of our end of year meetings that we have. Page 34, this deals with George and special education. Our reimbursement percentage for threshold cost has been decreasing. So we get threshold cost reimbursement back year by year, and it went from 42 to 36 to 34 to 25. So the percentage keeps decreasing, for what we see.
The reason that decreases, the state has this pool of money from the federal government, and they divide it up based on all the threshold costs that are for all the districts. So what it really happens is it's not getting smaller with the money for the reimbursement. And we have less students that are
Factoring into those,
factoring into it.
the per pupil numbers down.
This is interesting to see. So check out how we differ between 25, 26, and fiscal 27 for three categories. Let's look at number one, disadvantaged pupil. Went from 32,000 to 34 to 36, so increasing. So it means our population increasing. Gifted is going down. Went from 24,000 to 19,000 to 13,000. Student wellness and success is going up from 37 to 40 to 46. So how the state is looking at our data, it's giving more money for disadvantaged pupil aid, as well as more money for student wellness and success, and less money for gifted. We're identifying less.
Yeah, students aren't meeting the benchmarks.
So what is student wellness and success? How is that measured?
It's a component of the base cost that they have, and that money, I'd have to really drill into how it's calculated. to
Okay,
get there.
that's all right.
Yep, but it's provided for, and the definition's right here, but it's really for certain components for students to use when we sit every year and we have to build a plan for it. It goes to certain mental and physical health aspects that we use. So audiology, visual impairment are just two different examples that can be used. Therapy services, think of it that way as well.
Yep. The success and wellness is based on your student population. Your average daily membership is calculated in the first full week of October.
What is the career technical education used for? Is there costs?
So that is supplemental funding provided for students enrolled in career tech education programs. Funding is provided based on the type of CT program across 5 categories.
How much do we get? So,
We get a small amount for career tech, a couple thousand.
Yeah, it's really small.
because we only have one program here at the school that classifies or categorizes as career tech, and that's our Project Lead the Way program.
Oh, okay.
That's the only career tech linked program that we have.
Okay.
And we don't offer any like fully credentialed career tech programs, like a start to finish, like a carpentry class.
Mhm.
Not a carpentry class, a carpentry
So we have a
program.
welding.
Yeah, or welding.
We get our own welding program, we host it here.
Mhm.
It has to be a program that we don't have a career center, so that's like the balance that we host.
There you go. Our career center doesn't have a welding program, so if we have a facility,
I had a welding
we may
class.
want to talk about
I
that.
had a welding class across from my classroom for 15 years.
Yeah.
Even though the allocations are changing amongst the lines, the overall is increasing, small, but it's still going up. We have our roll-up here, so again, those components of disadvantaged pupil, base cost student wellness gifted, as well as some other areas, the cost reimbursement for threshold cost, and down here, we got a stipend for the science of reading a couple years ago. Continuing on, we're gonna talk about line 1.050, which is our the state reimbursement of property tax credits. Deals with our homestead exemption. certified non-business credits. Want to point out here on page 38, this is our reimbursement for the TPP phase-out, and it's going to be completely gone by 2031, which sounded so far away a couple years ago, but it's right around the corner. We're getting $660,000 for 27, and a cumulative lost amount over 22 million. So this is a big area of lost revenue for our school district. And it goes away completely in just a few years, which is crazy to think. So, continuing on, we have our roll-up here, which goes on our line. And there's a lot of different components for House Bill 186 and how it applies and restructures these credits. So I'm going to be interested to see how it all washes out. But there's going to be some movement in this area due to that House bill to where we're at. So hopefully we're held harmless, but what do you think, Matt? Hard to say.
Yeah, we really don't.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
This fair school funding plan was supposed to be fully funded as well, and it never happened, so we'll see how this works.
The next line is all other revenues, 1.060. It talks about our investments, our main ones we utilize. This is our tuition program here on page 41. We can see our costs over the years, and we can see our projected students for 27, 199 for the tuition program. And we can see for elementary school, we're at 92, middle school 40, high school 56. So we can look at past years just to see, and that's kind of been our trend. Higher in the elementary school for all those past years. Middle school, kind of been around 40. High school, kind of been around 50, the 50s.
Yeah, but there's only 3 grades in the middle school, so don't focus too much on the middle school. There's only 3 grades there. There's 4 grades in the high school, and you've got, counting preschool, you've got 7 grades in the elementary school.
Sure.
So when you start dividing by total number of grades, it looks a little differently.
Just talks about our TIP on 42. Then we have our roll-up on page 43. I do want to point out that interest income, as we lose cash, the interest on our investments will go down. So that's why we see that tier down. I am proud that we got over $1 million back in fiscal 24 and fiscal 25. Got close in fiscal 26. I'm not quite sure that we'll be able to carry that in fiscal 27, although I'm still going to take that as a challenge for myself to see if we can. Continuing on. Not too much on here for all other financing sources. I won't dive into that too much. And then we start our expenses. So personnel services line 3.010, first line of our expenses. Just want to point out that the estimate here for fiscal years 28, 29, and 30 only accounts for step increases, no base increases, because the collective bargaining agreement is finished this year in fiscal 27. So anything would have to be negotiated for a base increase, fiscal 28 and beyond. These are just object codes on page 46, how everything's coded in our system. Skip to just the roll-up for what we have on page 50. And we can see that there's a base and step built in for 27, but just the step for salaries going forward. Those are the biggest components that we have, would be the salaries for certified, non-certified employees for what we have here. No questions, I'll just continue on. We have our benefits on line 3.020. We'll go to our roll-up, which is going to be on page 55. Our biggest is going to be our health insurance, as well as our retirement for STRS and SERS, but more so STRS for the certified teaching staff. Insurance is always a big component. People pay 15%, the school district pays 85% health insurance. And then here, if anybody's interested, on page 56, it talks about our history with medical and prescription drug, dental insurance, vision insurance, and starts our purchase services, which is line 3.030. And we have all the budgets. So when anybody goes in to create a requisition, the budget here for the music department, or anybody coming to play the piano at any of our plays, $500 budget that we have. We can add to it or we can take away, but that's the baseline starting point for the budget. And we have it for all years for the forecast, so everybody knows where they stand at with all their budgets. 410 is professional and technical, instructional is 411, and so forth. So legal services would be a 418, architects there at 418. Repair and maintenance, 423, it's always a tricky one. Some years are better than others. Rentals for our copiers and whatnot, so we have a lot of different line items in our budget. Professional development, utilities on 66, outplacement of students for 67, for special education purposes primarily. Neonet on page 68 for all the tech services that we have. And then we have our roll-up, the grand total here on page 68, which goes to that line of the forecast that we can see. Any questions? Okay. Same thing for supplies and materials. We have all the budgets for the elementary, high school, middle schools combined together. If anybody's curious on any of these object codes, software materials on object code 516 on page 73, but that's essentially the logic behind it. We have our roll-up on page 80, and it just continues on from there for capital outlay would be the next line that we have on the forecast, 3.050. That's essentially the rest of the forecast, just looking at expenditures for what we have there. They're in line with every other forecast that we had. There's essentially kind of the same, monthly amount that we see for our expenditures. And, we try to have a methodology of, we address all our needs and we're reasonable with our wants, and we try to prioritize those. And when we take everything together, we throw it in our forecast, and, from our perspective, Matt and myself, I think we have a very strong forecast, especially compared to our peers. And, I think for the short term and long term, according to the Almanac, we're in a good spot. Any questions? All right, and that concludes my presentation tonight.
Okay, so where the heck are we?
Thank you.
All right, so next we move into treasurer's business. So Matt, you're not off the hook. You just switching gears.
Yep. I'll go through these relatively quick, too. I ask for items 5A, 6A through 6F for approval tonight in the consent agenda.
Okay, entertain a motion for those items, please.
So moved?
Okay, and a second?
Second.
And a second, Ms. Wojcicki. Discussion.
Yes. So.
I'm sorry.
That was
Matt.
Decca and
To you.
Patrice.
Yes.
Got it. Just one new vendor. It's West Music Company. And I have it pulled up on the screen. Approximate $1,000 for instruments and music for that new vendor. Purchase orders, we just have a handful. We have USPS, and that's going to be to prepay to add funds to our postage meter in the elementary, middle, and high school offices for district mailings. Approximate $8,000 from the general fund. It is $8,000 from the general fund. Number two, Neonet. That's from, I don't know, Matt, if you want to speak on that. For the internet, that's $21,540, but that's just for our district internet that we have here. I don't want to put you on the spot, but as we're using internet tonight, that's what that's paying for as we go. Chagrin Valley Conference, the CVC, that's our athletic conference, and we pay dues, $7,975 from the athletic fund. Mike's Outdoor Solutions, that is to remove a maple tree at the elementary school playground area, $8,700.
We talked about that back in the spring, the large tree that's right by the playground area, sitting on that wall, needs to come down.
And the last one, kind of late addition, but it's an annual one every year. It's our SURS surcharge. $35,384.87 calculated by SERS, which is the School Employers Retirement System. That's in line with what we paid in the past every year. Exhibit that here. 6C is just fulfilling our annual commercial paper reporting requirement. We use Red Tree as our investment vendor. We've used them since I've been here. They compile this for us, and it just shows the amounts that we receive for commercial paper. And this is per ORC. I do want to point out that there's been a change in the law right here. House Bill, it's a little smaller, 455 was recently enacted and becomes effective on October 9th, 2026. This legislation eliminates the requirement to submit the annual commercial paper and bankers acceptance reports to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce and the Auditor of State. However, districts will still be required to present the annual report to the Board of Education by August 31st as required. So this just further states, when we look at our bank reconciliation, all of our commercial paper and our yearly interest or fiscal year interest that we would have compiled from this one investment right here. Close on it here. We have our Delta Dental renewal for a one-year period, October of 26 to September of 27, a 6% increase. But the increase was 0 last year. Before that, it was 7.35%, and before that, it was 0. So essentially what we see is a 0 and 6 or 7. In line where we're at. Hearing all good things about Delta, Matt?
Go to the dentist twice a year. I have no cavities yet. So, I don't know if that's their responsibility, but working for me.
6E is just to approve a restatement for our retirement 403B plan. If we look at our notes, our history, back on November 5th of 2025, we Board of Education approved an agreement with Omni and TSACG for compliance services. This is when our 403B plan was with, I'm sorry? OASBO.
OASBO, that's right.
Our 403B plan was with OASBO, and they got out of the compliance game. They found a vendor for all the school districts that utilized their compliance plan, which is Omni and TSACG. So every school district in the state that utilizes that plan went over to this group, and this group just has a restatement. And when I called them up and said, well, what's it for? They said it is not changing any language that you have in. It's just going back and updating with some Secure Act and CARES Act language. And I said, can you give me any more detail? And they said they have 6,000 clients, and this is just a regulatory approval. So I didn't see anything as I skimmed through it for any change for us. So it just seems like IRS approved aspects that they want with the CARES Act and Secure 2.0 and 1.0 Act for our retirement plan. 6F, then and now. We have a handful, Neonet for the first 3, Chagrin Valley Conference for the 4th, Neonet for the 5th, and our SERS from tonight for number 6. And I ask for those items for approval tonight. Consent agenda.
Okay, any questions for the treasurer? Okay, hearing none, treasurer, please call the roll.
Mrs. Deca,
Aye.
Ms. Pajeska,
Aye.
Mrs. Apathy,
Aye.
Mr. Rossi,
Aye.
Mr. Suchaki.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Moving into section 8, treasurer discussion and comment.
Yep, just a couple things. This is just to point out that the forecast timelines have changed. It's the same info that we've had for the other meetings, and we'll approve the forecast that was presented tonight at our second board meeting in August, which would be August 24th. Let's see, the Budget Commission. So this is interesting. So we got an email, and I have here on the screen, from the Budget Commission. And they emailed all these different entities in Cuyahoga County. So we can see Aaron Frank over at the He's at
Brooklyn Heights.
Brooklyn Heights, yep. So we have all the different school districts, us included. They go, "Good afternoon. The Budget Commission is responsible for determining whether levies are reasonable and prudent to prevent unnecessary or excessive collections. To support this effort, a baseline of the most recent actual revenue and expenditures, along with projections of operational revenues and expenditures for the current fiscal year and the subsequent 3 fiscal years must be provided. The purpose of the proposed Schedule 6 is to request known operational revenues, expenditures, and resulting cash balances, and detailed line item descriptions of assumptions used to prepare the projected amounts. Your cooperation is essential, and they ask for feedback on whether the requested information is currently generated and maintained, readily available, or unnecessary for the stated purpose. Responses should be submitted by October 1st for review, and then once finalized, this will go into effect January 1st of '27. Now, I emailed and called, talked on the phone with the ESC of Northeast Ohio, and I asked for, a meeting for us to discuss it, so all the treasurers, all the school districts in Cuyahoga County, since we're going to have to generate feedback, and I said, having a meeting where we can speak with one voice would be beneficial as we are submitting our individual feedback. And Andrew, the treasurer over there, thought it was a great idea, and all of us treasurers are going to meet mid-August. We're going to have one formalized response that we're all going to use, and he's going to try, Andrew, the ESC treasurer, to invite some members of the Budget Commission to come out in person so we can provide those answers to them. My fear is just that some people at the Budget Commission may look and say something arbitrary, like, just, for whatever reason, just out of thin air, Cuyahoga Heights is doing too well, you can't collect on that levy. I want to make sure that that doesn't happen, and that there's a logic and reason behind it as we go forward, so.
I believe House Bill 96, the budget bill, had something in it that required districts with more than 100% cash carryover. Maybe not just, maybe governments, forms of government, Village of Cuyahoga Heights, Village of Brooklyn Heights. If you had more than 100% cash carryover, that you had to meet with the Budget Commission to justify why you had 100% or more. That was, I believe it was initially vetoed by the governor, but then that was part of the override. Again, I haven't done my homework, so I'm pretty sure there's 100% cash carryover restriction. You're allowed to have it, but the Budget Commission has to scrutinize it, and if they feel it's excessive, it could go back. We do not have 100%. Yeah, so, but other counties have scrutinized it for less than 100%. The Medina County fiasco that occurred in the spring, which motivated us to bring a new legal counsel forward for approval, because they had experience challenging budget commissions on this very thing. So this may just be a way that Cuyahoga County Budget Commission, who I believe is shorthanded, is requiring school districts to complete a form and do the work for them and send it in. Regardless, I like what Matt has done. He initiated a conversation with a group over at the ESC of Northeast Ohio, and all of their member districts in Cuyahoga County are going to get together, and we're going to hear a common message and have a common strategy and complete the form all together and send it in together. So I think that was a very wise thing that Matt did in contacting the folks over at the ESC in Northeast Ohio to bring everybody else on board with this. So,
Yeah, I just think if we're all together on this,
Yeah.
it just makes us that much more unified. They can't pick schools apart, I guess, think of that. At least that's my hope. Let's see, only 2 more. Suburban Health Consortium. Today there was a meeting where the new rate increase was voted on. It was 10.5 as proposed by Avon Lake Schools. 10.5 is going to be adjusted to fit within the bucket approach methodology that's adopted by Suburban Health. Rates are going to be calculated by a consultant and sent to us. Also, I was selected as the next Suburban Health Consortium Vice Chair President. So, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Congratulations.
It's good for us. It's going to be more scrutiny for them.
Additionally, there was a Suburban Health Consortium Fund Reserve policy that was approved, and it was proposed by Bay Village Schools. I actually drafted this policy and had been working with a subgroup at Suburban Health Consortium on it, and the language is here in the public section. So this is what I had drafted up, and the subcommittee approved it. We talked about it at our last Suburban Health Consortium meeting, and it was approved at this past one. So if anybody's interested to read this, essentially what it says is our cash is too low, our carryover cash for Suburban Health Consortium, and there's a line that we have to meet per ORC, which is called ORC 9.833, and that amounts essentially $10 million. We started this year with $5 million rounded, far below. We're ending the year with a surplus, hopefully, of about 2.5 million. So we're going to be at about 7.5. So we're making our way up. This policy just reinforces that it's everybody's goal that we have to hit ORC 9.833. And from talking with legal counsel for Suburban Health Consortium and all the member districts, we want to hit 2 to 2.5%, factor of that. So if it's 10 million, we want to hit 20 million or 25 million to have in reserves for the consortium. So how we get there is, everybody's going to work collectively and collaboratively, but that's the goal that we do. So. And the last item is, I can't believe it's that time of year, but Capital Conference is coming up. So we'll have to start thinking about who's interested in going, and then somebody's going to have to be the delegate unless we already voted on that. But I don't know by what. Yeah, I'm not sure if you got the dates right here, but we can think about it. Maybe we can start talking about, everybody who's interested in going. But November 15th through the 17th down in Columbus, the Greater Columbus Convention
The big
Center.
thing is Matt's going to have a head count because the rooms go very quickly.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you decide you want to go at the last minute, you could be staying, half mile to a mile away from everybody else.
They go quick.
Yeah.
So when is the cutoff? Or-
Usually
or
September.
The start, I should say.
You got a couple weeks to think.
Yeah, if we think about it, like maybe next board meeting.
Okay.
I think mid-September, right around my birthday, is usually when the portal opens for the hotels, and those things go, like that, so.
Yeah.
um,
Okay,
And that's all I have for tonight, thank you.
all right. And if anybody has any questions about that Capitol Conference, just feel free to bring them up.
Here, do you want to?
No, you just keep it.
Okay, moving into section 9, superintendent's business.
Okay, for consideration, on the consent agenda, I have items 9A and B, 10A, and 11A through C.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for those items, please.
So moved.
Ms. Apathy, okay, and a second? Okay. Mr. Rossi, any discussion?
Yeah, so 9A, this is our annual approval of our bus routes, which we're required to do by law. We only have to approve the initial bus route schedule. Any changes that occur moving forward, we'll just publish on our website and communicate it out. It doesn't have to be reboard approved. Only the initial approval has to occur annually. Letter B, this is to improve medical leave for an employee. Mrs. McDermott, one of our bus drivers, has qualified for, as you see with the document there, SERS disability benefit through the year 2031. Is that correct? Okay. Wish Mrs. McDermott well. She's an outstanding individual. Number 10A, these are updated supplemental contracts. A few things on here. One is Allison Phelps is going to be a volunteer rather than being a coach paid at 50% because of her work schedule, personal schedule. She wants to be a volunteer. Mr. Kosovich then will pick up now 100% of the supplemental for cross-country this year. You have assistant band director. It's split 80%, 20%. The 80% was because Joel Wojtek was going to be out of town for a portion of band camp and was going to miss that. And so because he's missing that portion, which is about 20% of the season, when you look at the totality of things, the number of day commitments, The other 20% is going to go to Kayla Valley, who assisted with band camp. So that allowed us to split that position between those two people partially. But Joel Wojtek will be the assistant band director once the football season starts. And then finally, we have a volunteer boys soccer coach being recommended as well. Okay. Then under agreements, contracts, and memberships, we have an addendum to our Centos agreement for our uniforms. For example, our mechanic, all his uniforms are rented from Centos. He plays around in oil and gasoline and all kinds of things that don't tend to come out of clothing very easily, and so it makes sense to have the service that we have with Centos. We had originally agreed to this back on August 9th of 2023. This was a 3-year agreement that expired. This is an extension of that agreement, and it extends every 90 days, rolls over. So we're, in essence, for right now, we're locking in all of our prices from 2023, which is a good thing.
Yes.
If we were to cancel or want to move to a different company, we do have to give 60 days notice before canceling. So if you don't do that, you're automatically locked in for the next 90-day cycle. But that is the addendum that we have in place right now that extends this particular agreement, which I think is a good move to lock in prices at the 2023 rate.
Yeah.
Next, this is an agreement with Summit Educational Service Center to provide math consultation, coaching services from Steve Miller. He's one of the best math consultants in the state of Ohio, potentially even the country. When I say that, he's written books. He's written curriculum for the state of Ohio. He has traveled to many states across the country talking about alternatives to Algebra 2 in a way that Ohio has done it. Different states have contracted him specifically, and he's been working with us since I came back, since I worked with him at Summit Educational Service Center. He is the best math consultant you're going to find. The teachers love him, yeah. So this year he's going to be working in our elementary school again with our intervention specialists and our gifted intervention specialists, talking about intervention and enrichment types of services that we can provide. So we want to focus more on those services, which lines up very well with Senate Bill 19 requirements and the new math requirements that are coming in that we've been pretty much prepared for. But that doesn't mean that we want to rest on the past. We want to make sure we're getting better. So Steve will do that. The cost is just under $5,000. It's actually, I believe, cheaper for us to get professional development right now from a non-member ESC than it is from our own ESC. Our own ESC is charging $1,500 per day for any type of professional development. So it's right in the same range, which is interesting. Next and finally, yep.
Small question.
Sure.
So things like this, is this a separate day or is this like a breakout session? Your professional development?
So what we've been doing is job embedded professional development, meaning that we will pull a grade level or a group out during the day. They may be here for a half of a day, and then a different grade level comes in the afternoon, and you have one set of substitute teachers that cover the morning, and then they cover the afternoon. What we know about professional development, again, this is my time working at the Educational Service Center, if it is not implemented within 48 hours of learning the new technique or the new information, adults tend to just drop it. So when we have a pull-out day in November, a professional development day in November, and then we send everybody on Thanksgiving break, they don't implement it the Monday they come back.
Yeah.
We know within 96 hours, there's like a 20% chance, I'd have to get the exact number, there is research on it, like a 20% chance it's going to get implemented. Whereas you have around an 80% chance if it is embedded immediately within the first 48 hours. So we've been doing it very directly because our teachers go back the very next school day and they implement what they just learned. And that's been very successful for us. And it's based on individual needs then as well, as opposed to having a blanket professional development that generally hits the entire group. Steve actually caters it and tailors it to that particular group. You know, what is it you guys need? First grade, what do you need? What skills? What's making you stay up at night? Tell me about it. Let's have a video conference about it, Zoom about it, talk about it. He creates it specific for them. So it's really, in my opinion, it's one of the better ways that we've been doing it.
I sat there, we met outside of an office in the work area of elementary school and kindergarten. And it was cool days, next weeks, doing the things that we talked about with the state numbers. So like,
Yeah.
it's a good model for us, especially if they kind of flows with their natural workday, the teams all together. It's more personalized, so instead of having like big groups, it's just focused on those team members who are working together. So,
Yeah, we've done that with the science of reading as well, back starting in 2022. We did the same type of model with Summit ESC in Lorraine, the ESC of Lorraine County. We use consultants from both of those ESCs to come in and do that same John Babette type of professional development. So, is that good? All right, there we go. Finally, letter C, this is just our agreement to purchase materials for our, and to have maintenance for our district laminator machine. We use it more than you think. Laminating is something that still has not gone by the wayside. It's a fantastic tool. We have the equipment here. I think we even replaced it maybe sometime maybe 5 years ago, so our machine's in good shape, and this is just to allow us to maintain it, and then we get our resources from them as well. So those are all the items that I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions or other discussion? Hearing none, treasurer, please call the roll.
Mrs. Appleby?
Aye.
Mr. Rossi?
Aye.
Ms. Pajeska? Mrs. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Section 13, superintendent discussion comments.
If you don't mind, I'd like to talk about spending $2.2 million.
Depends on what you're spending it for.
Oh, here, I'll pass these out. No, so Matt Muccio, as he gave the financial forecast, he mentioned the $4 million that we transferred out back in the summer of 2025 in response to House Bill 96 and our concern about losing our carryover amounts. That was based on, boy, this is really interesting how it did this. Really, it went one-sided, huh? Here, you figure it out. This was based on a 5-year plan that was provided to us by Tremco. Yes, and I'm trying to pass that out so you guys have it. See if it works there. That plan would have taken us through fiscal year '29 to spend the $3.3 million to get our roof completely warrantied, which is the goal, to have a roof that's not going to leak for a generation or two of students. Okay? So what he is giving you here, yeah, all these are messed up for whatever reason. No, but there's 2 of these. That's the problem. You got them? Oh, yeah, okay, here you go. You got it? Okay, he's got it. Does everybody have a copy? Here, George, here's your copy. All right, so the original version has values all the way out to 2029 totaling $3.3 million. Okay, that's what we based that transfer off of. We met with Tremco last week, and they've reassessed the facility. They still need to do, for approximately $3,900, additional thermal scanning of, okay?
No, I gotta get that record.
Yeah,
That just reminded me.
additional $3,900 for some thermal scanning to make sure that they feel confident in the plan that they've proposed. And the plan that they've proposed is sitting here on the August 5th, 2026 sheet that shows $0 being spent in 2029, which is fiscal 30. I believe they're doing fiscal years. 2028, you'd only have $40,000 left. 2027, this is the summer of 2027, essentially finishing up what would be almost 99% of the total project. All right, the new plan, when you look at the total dollars of their new plan, remember it was $3,339,521 when we started last summer. It's now $2,943,998. So the savings is almost $400,000 if they can do the majority of the work next summer. So it's going to save us about $400,000. Part of our capital improvement plan was to replace the air handler that sits above and cools the auditorium. That is around $325,000 to $350,000. It's somewhere in that range. That savings allows us to purchase that air handler folded into the amount as opposed to on top of the amount. The funds are in place, according to Matt, is that correct?
Correct.
Everything is there. I just want to pass out the diagrams to you, so let's pass those down, and you get the two at the end.
This one, yep.
So the first page, everything that you see, what they're trying to show you here, you've got those things that are warranted greater than 5 years and those things that are under 5 years. Okay? That's just page one. Things that are under 5 years, outside of the slate roof, so we can't count that, the actual slate roof here and the part that's out here. We're talking about just the flat rooftops.
Okay.
Okay? When you turn the page, what they have highlighted, is that yellow? Okay, colorblind guy. What they've highlighted in yellow is what they propose to do next summer. They're going to do it essentially internally.
Well, they're 100% going to oversee it, so.
Yeah.
If they subcontracted somebody to do some work.
Yep.
Their people are going to be on site to oversee it and manage the project.
So last summer, they managed it essentially internally. All right? Fantastic in the fall. Like the roof that they replaced or I forget, retrofitted, whatever they do, like it was a perfectly run and executed plan. This summer, they subcontracted to Centamark. We know we've had some issues with Centamark. That is all being remedied. Right? The cracked sidewalk's been fixed. The sprinkler system, we're working on it. The school bus, $16,000 of damage that they ran into our school bus. That's going to be covered by them. And then the drain that they threw all the trash down our drain on top of the one roof, so it flooded, had a 1.5 feet of water on top of it. Has now been completely cleaned out. All right? And then they fired that crew, and they brought in the next crew that's been finishing the work at the elementary school. I think Tremco feels, as they should, responsible. They're not to blame, but they are responsible because they're our owners repping this thing. I don't think they want to lose our business. They certainly, they've told us, and it doesn't matter if they do or don't, they can do whatever they want. They said they won't work with Centamark again because this has been such an embarrassment. It's created a strain on their organization because they're basically out here every day. Well, if we're going to be out here every day, let's just do it internally. And if they have the manpower to do it, then it makes a lot of sense. If you go to the third page is, it's only looking at the swimming pool. The dark section is a section that has to be cut out and replaced. All right, there's severe corrosion underneath of that. All right, so they had to cut that out and fix that. And then in the lower left-hand corner is just surface corrosion. If you go back to the sheet the two sheets that I'd given you with the dollar amounts on them, you know, after they reassessed everything, the swimming pool itself was roof A on the original document was $523,404. If I go to the second sheet and we look at the cost, it's at essentially $55,000. Right, so they've determined that would be sufficient. They still would be a decent warranty on that roof there. So that's where the big savings came, in addition to the garages.
There's that $47,000 for the 10-year warranty, so they're able to do like the flashing.
Oh, that's right.
repairs. So it's
$55,000 plus the $47,000 extended warranty so that they can do the roofing repairs along the way. So that's the savings. Yeah, thanks. That math didn't add up. If you go then to the last page, that's going to show you at the end of next summer that's going to show you the warranted sections. So everything will be under warranty.
That's gonna be approximately, what, 90-some%?
Oh, it's going to be yeah. I mean, outside of the slate roofs, which weren't ever part of this original they don't do the slate. It's a different company, I believe. They probably could do it, but they'd have to outsource it. This is the, if you want to see, this is the product. I had mentioned in my weekly update that, they had talked about going to a restoration plan. They were using their own product that they feel confident has held up and stood the test of time. It says a restored roof only needs pressure wash, priming, and a top coat at the end of its 20-year warranty to extend it another 20 years. So minimal to get 40 years out of it. And 20 years from now is going to be somebody else's problem. But we want to set them up for success. And I think that's some of the best leadership you can have is when you set up future generations to make wise decisions. So rather than a full tear off and the construction waste and landfill waste and all that goes with it, it's also an environmentally more responsible way of going about it. It just requires us to take 2 years of roofing budgets and combine them into one. And in order to do that, we're going to have to make decisions sometime within likely the next month, because they're going to need to plan for that, because they would do a lot of the work that they would do a lot of prep work starting in November and December, assembling their crews and ordering the materials, and then it actually talked about some work in maybe March and April to prepare for June.
There's things they can do over the weekends,
Yep.
things that do not show school, throughout the process, which is obviously a plus for us.
Plus, if we're going to do this, I have so many numbers in my head. At one time, I think getting an air handler in place, because with that cost, you either have to go with some type of consortium type pricing like we do with OSC, or you have to bid it out. But at one point, some of the equipment we were talking about ordering has a 9-month leeway. Now, I don't know that air handler is 9 months, depending on who you go with, but it's not going to, you can't just in May say, hey, let's order our big air conditioner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to take a little time to get that ordered. So decisions are going to have to be made very soon for something that's going to start in essentially
Because Trumco
kick it off in
works
June.
hand in hand with that provider of the air handler to coordinate removal of the current air handler, all the specs and sizing for that. There's things that we can do exactly that's different, because the way it was put on originally
Yep.
wasn't optimal way to do it for standards now.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the state legislature can still override the governor's veto about the cash carryover cap. Okay? Which meant that, and I don't know how all of that legalese would work. Originally, if you had money set aside to do capital improvements, you had a 3-year window to get it done. Well, that'll get that done in that 3-year window. So it's, again, we're trying to play chess with people who are playing chess, not playing checkers with people who are playing chess. You got to prepare for the what ifs, and if it's all in our permanent improvement. It's not coming out of the general fund. It's not going to determine if we need a levy any sooner than what the general fund says. Mr. Muccio's financial forecast is very solid, very sound. We'll put it up against anybody's. This is all in the permanent improvement or capital improvement accounts, however you want to categorize it.
When we did the Settlemar contract, that amount was a little bit higher than the estimates they've given us in the original sheet of prices. One of the things that they shared with us was that these prices they feel are locked in, and they could do it for that amount. They're not, couldn't promise, but they think that some of those areas they may be able to shave some money on. So they had some
Unless there's something that the thermal scan shows is different than what they thought. They're also talking about trying to lock in, 2027 pricing, 2027 27 labor costs. And by having a more direct role in it, we're cutting out a little bit of the middleman there as well. And I think part of that is because they feel responsible for the way the Centermark project has gone, and so they feel this would be a good direction for both them and for us to take.
And Mitch and Austin are taking a big role in this plan. They both have backgrounds in this area specifically, this is their area of expertise, and doing some of
And the
repair work.
platinum plan that they had talked about us upgrading to would then take care of any leaks that would be found in the bus garage, even though they're not doing anything to the bus garages. If there is anything in that area that needs attention, they would do it as part of the work that they're already doing on this large section of roofing. So it's just something I wanted you to be aware of. I put it in the Friday update. I wanted to give you some materials here just to understand that things are going as planned, and if we have an opportunity to leave the district in a great place by the end of next summer, I think we can start working on those other projects as money starts to, we're going to have to start building our reserves back up again. But yeah.
Just a note, when we closed fiscal year '26, a couple weeks ago, in our permanent improvement fund, we had free and clear $5.4 million. So that's our ending unencumbered balance, which means, it's just sitting there. So not encumbered, there's no purchase order against anything. So 5.4 million, and we're looking at approximately 2.2,
2.2,
2.3.
yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, still left to do.
And that's already paying for the hillside,
The hillside's already finished. Now we've got this, we haven't taken the stadium, the South Gym bleachers out of that yet, right? Or is that coming from, no, that's coming from that. We haven't paid for that yet, so that will be, that cost will come out of that. Correct?
Well, I'll have to look, remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
where
that's
we
still
have that
to,
South Gym Beach.
I still that, because we haven't installed them yet. That's September, so we haven't paid anything yet, so.
We've done a rec.
But he may have,
I
he may have already had you may already have a rec in waiting.
And that's still on track, right?
It
September?
is.
Okay.
No, that's on track.
Good.
So, when you think about it, stadium lights, scoreboard, hillside stabilization, got a sound system in the auditorium has been upgraded. I don't know if you've seen the refinishing of the North Gym. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, the gym itself, we got some work to do, to kind of beautify the facility down there, which we have kind of a plan in place for that. It looks amazing. We're going to have new bleachers in the South Gym. We had an air heating unit put in over at the elementary school over the winter time. If you remember that, we did that in the fall. I think we're spending the money, but they're coming from our permanent improvement account. We've got $440-ish thousand coming into that every year from that levy. We've got $300-ish thousand coming from the billboard that's going into another portion of that. So we have, and that $4 million transfer we had. So we're in a good space,
Check it out.
but we do have to,
Came from the billboard account, our bleachers.
okay. So the
Not even permanent improvement.
so the billboard account, you're not even counting as,
It's not.
yeah, so that's
Permanent.
a separate fund then.
It's our 300 fund. So yeah, so we have 5.4 million free and clear in our 003 permanent improvement fund for this roofing project. Now, what Matt's talking about is the bleacher project that came out of Fund 300,
Yeah. So it's a separate fund.
separate fund. And that fund's healthy with approximately 840,000 after the bleachers.
Oh, nice.
So that's that fund. But if we're just looking at, again, let's take that aside. So just the roof, permanent improvements, 5.4 million is what we have. And we're looking at 2.2, roughly, 2.3, so.
And we may have, within the next 5 years, you may have to do something, the replacement of the turf field or the track down there. So that's why it's good to have that account sitting there with 800,000. It's not like, oh, let's go do something with that. We do have something to do with it. We got to make sure that we have that.
The report for the track is coming up soon.
Yeah.
Started to put prices on that, but last time we did that was right before Matt and I got hired.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, so, but again, we talk about what can feel like unstable times, at times, feel like we've got a very stable, steady direction here. And it's a group effort. It's all of us, the board, it's our administrative team, it's our teacher leadership team, it's the community, all those working in unison with each other. And I think it's something we can be proud of, but it's also something that we have to protect, is that stability and that team approach. So feel good about where we are right now.
Okay.
But yeah, that was just information. A few more things, not a few, but I just got a lot of things to list in one thing. Back to school is happening. School, like, we're almost at, if we play tag with parents, you know, we're almost at, we've got our orientations this week, Wednesday. We've got elementary school, middle school, and high school all on Wednesday. Thursday's our kickoff to kindergarten. Next week, teachers come back, and all the staff that are tied to teaching and learning, they all come back on it's Monday. I can't believe Monday already, on the 17th. You're doing the opening speak? All right, there we go. We're still good. Thought maybe you'd back out on me at the last minute there.
No.
He's ready to go. Okay. That's on Monday. We've got 3 days of prep, which in the middle of all that, we got a back-to-school bash, and we have our middle school, high school open house. And then on Wednesday, it's first day for Career Center students. And yes, our Career Center students do have to go to school because they're part of that school too. They get the benefits of both, starting a day early for them. But we also have our preschool orientation meeting, as well as our elementary meet the parents night. And then on Thursday, the majority of kids come back, except those in kindergarten and pre-K, which have a phase-in approach. So, you know, in 2 weeks, we're in school.
Yeah.
We're in school. So it's exciting. Everybody, our maintenance team, our summer workers, our technology staff, just done a phenomenal job of getting everything ready. We've had to you know, navigate some obstacles. You know, it's tough to have a lush green lawn when your sprinkler system has been crushed by your roofing company, and you have to shut the whole thing down. That just happens, right? You're trying to get the classroom environments ready to go, you know, maybe before you pull a weed, you know, back behind the football stadium. But we know we're going to be ready. I'm really proud of the group. Everybody has done just a phenomenal job getting ready, and by the time the kids show up on the first day, the school's going to be in tip-top shape, and they're the reason why we're here, and that's when all the magic happens, between the kids and the adults that interact with them on a daily basis. So, that's it.
Okay.
See you after school starts. It'll be the next meeting.
All right, so, well, the treasurer and the superintendent have had a lot of comments and discussion. Now it's the board's turn. Anybody? Me either. Okay, so that moves into future agenda items. Anybody have any future agenda items? Okay, that moves in-
I had just heard that maybe you were going to have a special meeting for evaluations. Is that something that you guys are considering?
We threw around an early September date.
Yes, we did.
I just wanted to, as a possible, it's not an agenda item, but it's a possible thing that Matt would have to send out a notice for, so I
Right.
just wanted to give him,
Did we finalize that in our discussion? I don't.
you could discuss that in executive session. It's
Yeah.
just, I think
Yeah.
it's something that you would discuss, maybe having a separate meeting to do the evaluation review,
Right, we did.
as opposed to piggybacking off one of our
And
regular
we put a
meetings.
tentative date too,
We had talked about September 2nd,
September 2nd. Usual
that-
time, 6 o'clock?
and that would just be a board discussion.
Yes.
Okay,
too.
so you just go straight to executive session then?
Mhm.
Right.
I think we talked about, was it 6:30? Did we bump it? 'Cause
Yeah,
I
there's
thought-
something going on.
I thought Carolyn
You know, that makes
had a
sense.
game at Brooklyn, so I thought we, yeah.
Once you guys finalize it, just let me know.
We'll probably let you know at the next 24th meeting for sure. Mhm.
Yeah, that would give us enough time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're down to informational items, I believe, unless I've missed something. Okay, it should be noted the Board of Education members received their agendas several days prior and had considerable opportunity to study and so on. Upcoming regular meetings, August 24th at 6 PM, September 14th at 6 PM, and September 28th at 6 PM. And we did talk about the September 2nd meeting, which would also be at 6 PM.
6:30.
6:30.
What?
6:30 PM.
6:30. That one was 6:30? How did I miss that? Okay. And at this point, I hereby move that the board adjourn to executive session pursuant to ORC 121-22G1 for the purpose to consider appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, treasurer, please call the roll.
Mr. Souchaki?
Aye?
Mrs. Decker?
Aye.
Mrs. Zappi?
Aye.
Ms. Pajewski?
Aye.
Mr. Rossi?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. It is 7:41 PM. We are going into